Hey folks, this is John with Ozarks Backroads. I'm with you here from the Ozarks Backroads World Headquarters Garage. Today I'm coming to you with some information. This is not a video that I'd like to make, but we've got some bad news for the FJR owners. We've got a recall on the transmission on the 2016 through 2020 FJR1300s. Second gear is not strong enough and it can break, cause problems, lock up the transmission. So the National Transportation Safety Board here in the United States has issued a recall on all of the FJR 1300s, the 2016 through 2020 models that have the 6-speed transmission. So with this recall, the NTSB says that they're going to replace second gear in the transmission as well as both shafts. And I believe there's a couple of other gears there that are going to get replaced with forged steel gears instead of the milder steel that they used in these. So let's go inside and get on the computer. We'll take a look at this document from the National Highway Safety Board on this recall. We can go through the information there, and then we'll look at a diagram of the case of the engine and the transmission, and we'll kind of see what's involved in doing this recall here from Yamaha on the FJR 1300s. All right, we're in here on the computer, and we'll take a look at this document. This is from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration here in the United States. This is the safety recall report that I found on their website. The report number here is 20V-813. The manufacturer, of course, is Yamaha Motor Corporation. They submitted this on the 28th of December 2020. And then here's your National Highway Traffic Safety Administration recall number. And then the manufacturer recall number is 990141. And here, the manufacturer is Yamaha Motor Corporation, USA. The number of potentially involved units here is 2,285 here in the United States. This recall is strictly for the US, so there's 2,285 units involved, and they're saying that the estimated percentage with defect would be 50%. So they think half of these 2,285 will have the defect. And then the vehicle information is it covers the 2016 through 2020 Yamaha FJR 1300. And then the information here, it talks about second gear may not be strong enough to handle high-speed loads. As a result, cracks may occur due to constant stress applied during repeated gear shift operation, and eventually the gear could break. If this happens, the transmission and the rear wheel could lock, increasing the risk of loss of control. It gives the VIN numbers that are covered in this recall. These are the VIN numbers for each year: 2016, 2017, 18, 19, and 20. And here I'm at 30E6 is my VIN, and it starts at 30E0 and runs through 30E7. So I'm in this group here. Mine's a 2018. So you can look and see if your VIN falls in here, which if it's a 16 through a 20 model, then you're in it. I'm just pretty sure here. Description of the defect here. In affected motorcycles, the side of second gear may not be strong enough to handle the high-speed loads. As a result, cracks may occur due to constant stress applied during repeated gear shift operation, and eventually the gear could break. If this happens, the transmission and the rear wheel could lock. Okay, that's bad. Description of the safety risks, same thing. Gear break, rear wheel lock up. So that's not good. Okay, identification of any warning. Difficulty shifting, finding neutral, and false neutrals may occur prior to gear breakage. So they're saying there's some warning signs possibly that if you experience these, These could be symptoms that your gear's cracked and starting to break. So that's something to look out for. And the remedy, description of remedy here, affected units must have the main axle and the drive axle assemblies replaced. And these are the two shafts, gear shafts, the shafts that have all the gears on them, both of the shafts in the transmission, the main shaft and the drive axle shaft. They're going to be replaced with the stronger parts, and the ECU control unit is going to be reprogrammed to prevent excessive RPM leading to second gear damage. And then here it talks about how the remedy components differ from the recall components. The second pinion gear is now forged, and second pinion on the main axle and first and fifth wheel gear on the drive axle have a small identification groove machined on them to aid identification. So we're getting a new second gear that's forged steel, and first and fifth gear on the drive axle will also be replaced. And then it says, identify when the recall condition was corrected in production. So it says with the start of November 2020 production, the new style forged second pinion gear on the main transmission axle and first and fifth wheel gear on the drive transmission axle are used for engine transmission assembly. So the factory started using these forged gears in November of 2020. So that'll be the cutoff on the recall. Okay, and here's the timeline of how this is all going to happen, saying we anticipate commencing dealer consumer notification shortly after the owner's notification letter is approved by the National Highway Transportation Safety Administration. Final copies of these notification documents will be forwarded to the agency as soon as possible. So they're saying that the planned dealer notification date, the dealers should be notified by January 13th to January 15th. Today is January 19th, so the dealers probably have been notified. And the planned owner notification date is the same, January 13th through 15. So I would assume the letters are in the mail. I haven't received mine yet, but I'm sure they'll be here shortly. All right, so that's a look at the document here from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration on their safety recall report. So let's look at a diagram of the engine and the transmission and see what's involved in changing these two shafts and these gears. Okay, we've got our shop manual opened up here, and we're going to take a look at what's involved on this. And we've got two shafts here that we're talking about in the transmission. Get this where we can see it. We've got one down here with all the gears on it, and then we've got the input shaft here with all the gears on it. Both of these shafts go right in here in the transmission behind the crankshaft here. The motor's upside down, and the crankcase is split apart. So this is the top half of the crankcase that we're looking at here, and then there's a lower section that sits on top of it. So our engine is opened up. It's split in half, and our shafts here on our transmission, one goes through this hole here, and the back of it goes in a bearing right here. That can be slid out through the case here, through the side of the case. But this other shaft, that's this shaft right here. It can go in through this hole and plug in. This shaft up here sits on top of this shaft. Here's where, this is where this bearing that holds the back of this cluster sits right here in this. This is half of where it sits, and the other half is in the other half of the crankcase that isn't shown here. And then this front bearing sits in this pocket right here and is covered by the upper half of the crankcase. Makes up the other half of the hole that holds this. So the only way to get this gear cluster out is to bust the motor in half, open up the crankcase, and then this can be removed. This shaft, this upper set right here, or lower set actually, and then this has to be removed before this can be slid into place and slid out. This won't come out past this big gear here when it's installed. So this has to be removed, and then this shaft can be pulled out. So the long and short of it is that our engine they're going to have to pull the engine out of the motorcycle, bust the engine in half, take the case apart, exposing this half of the crankcase with the crank and the transmission, and then they're going to pull out these shafts, these gear clusters, and they're going to replace them, and then put it all back together. So that's what's going to happen on this recall. So they're going to tear the bike apart. They're going to pull the engine out. They're going to bust the case apart. They're going to change the transmission shafts and gears. All right, folks. Well, that was a look at the recall that has been issued on the 2016 through 2020 Yamaha FJR1300s, the 6-speed model transmission bikes. I hate to be the bearer of bad news. I'm personally gutted by this. It's horrible. I don't want somebody taking my engine apart that I don't know. I'm going to have a real hard time dealing with that. I know me personally, when I bought this bike, I had a 2013 FJR with low miles, a really nice bike. I absolutely loved it. For some reason, I thought I had to have the 6-speed transmission. So when those came out in 2016, I thought I'd wait a few years just to make sure that everything was okay with the new transmission, and nothing ever came of them. They seemed to be fine. So in 2019, early in 2019, I traded for this bike here. I sold my old FJR and got this one, and now I've got a recall on the transmission. So I'm not real happy about it, but what are you going to do? That's the way life is sometimes. I hope you all get yours fixed. We should be seeing the letter real quick. If you haven't already got them, they should be coming. If they're on schedule or on their time schedule that they were showing there on the document that we looked at, everybody should be getting a letter within a week or so, I would imagine. So I wish everybody the best of luck. Find yourself a good dealer that you trust, and get your transmission fixed. Well, I thank you all for hanging out with me and checking out some bad news. I hate to be the one to tell you this, but if you haven't heard, that's what's going on. I have been on the internet on a lot of these forums for the FJR. There's a lot of misinformation going around. Nobody really knows what's going on, but all we've got to go on for sure is the document that we looked at from the National Transportation Safety Administration there. So they're the officials that issue the recall, so I'm going to say that what's on the document is correct. I thank you all for hanging out with me. I invite you to come back and see me. Until I catch up with you again next time, you all take care of yourselves. We'll catch you later.